Chapter 1136. The Gap in Arid Triad. The middle-aged man's fighting spirit shocked the powerful warriors around him, and without even knowing it, they began feeling respect. Ming-Er, you could have had a good life, because I am your father. I am only an ordinary abyss builder, but my existence is one even the royal family has to respect. If this hadn't happened, you would have been brought up and taught by me, eventually surpassing me and even the royal children. You were to be my son, Su Zhon's son, whom even the abyss builder's progenitor has to regard with great importance. But now you will have a bad life, because you are my son, because you will die with me in this battle. Are you afraid? The middle-aged man threw his head back and laughed. He swung the long blade in his hand, and an indescribable, domineering power erupted from it with a bang. It beheaded an almighty in life realm and destroyed his nascent divinity. The man's blood gushed outwards and landed on the baby's face. The baby extended his tongue, and as if he was sucking on milk, he drank the blood. He even giggled happily. Now that's my son. As expected of the son I've sired after sneaking into Dark Dawn and seizing your mother, who belongs to the sacred bloodline of the essences in Dark Dawn. It doesn't matter whether she was willing or not, in the end, she gave birth to you. But you, truly do not have a good life. The middle-aged man lowered his head and stared at the baby in his arms. There was kindness in his domineering gaze as well as sadness. Booming sounds reverberated in space, and the slaughter continued. Su Ming simply watched everything before his eyes while staring at the tall and built middle-aged man. He was not Su Xianxia, but a stranger who had never appeared before in Su Ming's memories. However, this stranger gave him a feeling that made his soul tremble. It gave him a feeling that he was that baby who was giggling while licking his enemy's blood. Booming sounds reverberated in the air once more. The scene continued until Su Ming saw everything turn into dazzling fireworks in the galaxy. They were lit by a single life, releasing everything within it and drowning everyone out. Even the man and the baby in his arms turned into nothingness in the dazzling fireworks. There were only a few words which still echoed quietly in the galaxy. Ming-Er, if we can be born again, then I'd like to still be your father. If we are born again, I will teach you the paths of cultivation. I will bring you along while I travel through the universe. I will love you with my whole being, because you are my son. Even if I die, you must remember, your father's name is Su Zhon. As for that convenient mother of yours, perhaps she'll shed tears when she knows I died, but perhaps she won't. No matter what, I, Su Zhon, have no guilt towards the heavens, the earth, my people, and my best friend. The scene ended, and a tear tore Su Ming's soul apart. Intense pain shot through his body and mind, but he no longer cared about it, because he saw another memory which had clearly been sealed. It also had the same galaxy filled with corpses. After an unknown number of years had passed, a person walked into it. He was Su Xianxia. He moved quietly forward in the galaxy filled with death. He stood there for a long, long time, and sadness appeared in his eyes. The moment he was about to turn around and leave, he let out a gasp of surprise. When he raised his hand, he seized a weak soul from the galaxy. It was a baby's soul, protected by his father when he died. Due to the mysterious qualities of his mother's race, he'd remained a broken soul still struggling to survive in the barren battlefield. Su Ming saw Su Xianxia stare at that soul for a long, long time before he mumbled, "Su Zhon, you lured away our pursuers so that I could leave smoothly with my wife. You knew that I would one day come to this place, which is why you self-destructed and protected your child. Then, from now onwards, this child will be my son." Su Xianxia's voice was soft. When he turned around, he left the galaxy with all the corpses belonging to his enemies, his allies from the fifth true world, as well as a drop of blood which was pressed at the center of the baby's brows. Your father sacrificed himself to protect his race. You will sacrifice yourself to do what your father did not manage to complete. You will make our race rise to power. Are you willing to do so? Su Xian stared at the fragile soul in his hand while speaking softly. However, there was a hint of a cold madness in his words. The baby's soul seemed to sense something horrifying, and it trembled while looking on the verge of dissipating. You will be. Su Xianxia brought his right hand up, and with a hint of cruelty, he yanked the blood from the baby's soul. He then turned around and left into the distance. When another scene appeared, Su Ming saw a beautiful and gentle woman. She stared at him blankly with pain on her face. I won't agree to this. Su Zhon died in battle for our sakes. We can't. An aloof voice cut off the woman's words. This is my choice. Su Zhon died for our race, and he died a worthy death. He did not die for our people. He died so that we could leave. With his cultivation base, he could have taken his son and fled without any problems. We can't do this to his son. He was Su Zhon's son, but from now on, he will be my son. If we don't do this, then our own son will die. If we compare my blood to Su Zhon's, then it is already considered a great honor for this broken soul to have the right to help us. If Su Zhon was still alive, he would definitely agree to this as well. You're mad, Su Xianxia. You're mad. The scene disappeared, and when another appeared, the baby was held in the woman's arms while they drifted in the vast galaxy. The woman's aura was weak, and she was already on the brink of death. Tears fell from her eyes when she looked at the baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If there comes a day when you learn the truth behind everything, you can blame me, but please, spare my son. I'm truly sorry. Our entire family has wronged your father, and even more so, we have wronged you. Su Ming, my son. The scenes ended in Su Ming's mind at that point. His soul no longer ached in pain, and there was no longer any confusion in his mind. Madness made the pain irrelevant, and his previous confusion was meaningless. He only smiled. It was an expression filled with madness that longed to destroy everything. His smile was no longer one of self-deprecation, but an aloof one which would terrify anyone who saw it. Laughter echoed in his nascent divinity at that moment. It was filled with a forlorn tone as well as hate that surged into the heavens. Sorry, huh? Su Ming moved his divine sense and swept up the bald crane. By the time Di Qian succeeded in refining the physical body created by 1 billion corpses, Su Ming's divine sense had left and returned to the white ring and back to the black-robed old man's body. Moments later, all the veins in the physical body started shining with a dazzling light. When it opened its eyes, a brilliant light shone in them. It had already come into Di Qian's possession. Happiness and excitement appeared on Di Qian's face. He slowly sat up, and when he threw his head back to laugh, the black-robed old man and Xingji Dao smiled faintly. Bai Feng, too, saw this scene beyond the pillar of light, and eager anticipation appeared in her eyes. Yet at that moment, a brilliant light spread out from the white ring. When it shone, a strong sense of danger rose in Xingji Dao and the black-robed old man's hearts. Di Qian's laughter came to an abrupt halt. He swiftly lowered his head to look at his body, and disbelief as well as shock showed up in his eyes. Countless faces appeared on his body in a manner as if his body was melting. The faces were packed densely together, making it impossible to calculate just how many of them were in total. A presence powerful enough to destroy an entire true world erupted from his body, and it was so strong that Di Qian's expression changed drastically, and Xingji Dao's pupils shrank. Something's wrong with this corpse. This is the forbidden art of Dark Dawn's dark chamber, 1 billion corpse soul seal. The black-robed old man shouted loudly. His expression twisted, and disbelief as well as shock appeared in his eyes. His voice had even started quivering at that instant. This is the 1 billion corpse soul seal. When the black-robed old man instinctively repeated himself, he started screaming shrilly, then swiftly rushed away. Shock was on his face along with fear that had never been seen on him before. Xingji Dao shuddered violently and let out a roar filled with despair, then moved to leave the pillar of light as well. Yet during that moment, while the destructive power spread out, the physical body Di Qian had just mastered let out a loud bang which shook the entire true morning Dao world. At the instant this loud bang shot out, Di Qian let out a shrill scream of pain. He wanted to leave the body regardless of the cost, but he found that it was impossible. As he screamed, an indescribable hate seeped into his voice. Su Xianxia. It was Di Qian's last cry in his life, the final words belonging to the most formidable man of his generation, the sublime paragon whose level of cultivation had shocked the world and who had fought against Su Xianxia for tens of thousands of years. His voice was instantly drowned out by the booming sounds. Amid them, the body he had just gained control of exploded. The explosion from 1 billion bodies and the collapse of Dark Dawn's forbidden art brought forth a power that surpassed even what sublime paragons could use. In fact, no one could say whether it possessed a power close to those in Avacania realm or whether it had surpassed even that. No one knew the full power of the first stage of Su Xianyi's plan, which he had prepared for countless years. It was an explosion which could destroy an entire true world, a madness triggered by Di Qian, who had personally refined it with the help of Saint Defire Expanse Cosmos. Its collapse could destroy all the lives in true Morning Dao world and even the planets and the entire galaxy. After it, there would no longer be any true Morning Dao world among the 4 great true worlds. From then on, there would only be 3 great true worlds. And that power which could destroy an entire true world was gathered within the Pillar of Light, which it was about to tear apart. At that moment, the pillar became the one and only gap leading from within arid triad expanse cosmos to the universe beyond, and it was something which had never appeared before in this expanse cosmos. The appearance of this gap could allow a large number of cultivators from Saint Defire to descend. Their levels of cultivation would not be limited, and neither would they need to rebuild their bodies. In fact, besides those in Avacania realm, no one else would be affected no matter how strong they were. All of them could descend with their complete power in large numbers. The gates to hell had been opened. This was Su Xianyi's plan, because once such a gap showed up, Dark Dawn, who had their previous relocation path destroyed by Su Xianyi using Su Ming's hand and who had been preparing a new relocation path, would be forced to give up on all their preparations. They would have to attack Saint Defire at full force so that they could seize the gap in the shortest amount of time possible. After all, they could not allow Saint Defire to enjoy the benefits by itself. If one camp completely occupied Arid Triad, they would be able to destroy all existences within the other camp. The first stage of Su Xianyi's plan was to ignite the war between Dark Dawn and Saint Defire so it would reach its peak in an instant and become more frenzied than ever before in their history. Chapter 1137. Possession. This was directed outwards, and the attack directed inwards. At the instant Su Ming's divine sense returned to the black-robed old man who was about to rush out of the pillar with fear and disbelief, Su Ming sensed great danger. It did not come from the physical body which he had believed belonged to him, but from his nascent divinity's right hand. Su Ming's right hand, the one which could allow him to release power surpassing his level of cultivation, gave off ripples which could endanger his life. It did not choose to self-destruct like his physical body, but instead, it had started melting, turning into an energy source that nourished the seed of life extermination. This might not cause direct harm to Su Ming, but it could change the seed of life extermination's parasitic relationship with his soul. From mere absorption, it could turn into an incomparably violent and blatant pilferage. This would not last long. When the seed of life extermination was close to ripening, it would use a short period of madness to instantly complete the entire process. Su Xianyi, what a man you are. I don't know whether you have any follow-ups to your plan, but by the looks of it, this is still part of it. To the world outside, you showed the souls of 1 billion corpses exploding to destroy the pillar and overturn Saint Defire as well as Dark Dawn, while underneath this plan, you hide the fact that you're using my soul to nourish the seed of life extermination. Only half of it has formed because I am not your son. I am only nourishment to restore your real son. If I hadn't seen the sealed memories, then perhaps even at my last moment I would have not known the reason for my death. Su Ming fell silent. He understood everything now. His fake physical body was an item used by Su Xianyi to further his goals, and his soul was clearly the same. It was an object entangled in the man's numerous schemes. But Su Ming still remained silent. Even though he had come to understand everything, he wanted to know whether Su Xianyi intended to utterly annihilate him in his plan. Did he still have other tasks for Su Ming after using him this time? Or was Su Xianyi going to cast him away after he lost his purpose once his soul was used to nourish the seed of life extermination until it fully matured? This question was incredibly important to Su Ming. He wanted to know the answer. And it was not hard to find that out. When Su Ming saw the right hand melt and the seed of life extermination descend into a frenzied state before gradually burning his soul, he knew his answer. The seed seemed to be persecuting him, even burning his soul just so it could reach maturity. His lips curled up into a smile while he shook his head. There was an air of a person being freed from all their shackles in that smile. Su Ming seemed to be bidding farewell to his past as well as finally growing up from a child he'd been for so long. At that moment, Su Ming looked like he had truly grown up. All his emotions came to a single point that cut him off from his past. After all, he was supposed to die there, because of the seed of life extermination buried in his soul as well as Su Xianyi's plan. From now on, the Su Ming you speak of has died. The person who will appear from now on in this world will be a new person, a ruthless and unfeeling person. Su Ming mumbled. The moment the destructive power erupted from the body he once believed was his, it disintegrated with a bang, and Su Ming chose possession. He would possess the black-robed old man, and he would be born anew when he possessed his physical body. Su Xianyi, you've kept a broken soul like me alive up to this moment. Even though you've only done so to have my soul nourish the seed of life extermination, this is still a kindness towards me. You let me grow from that weak, broken soul to this date. If you weren't around, I would have disintegrated a long time ago. I will never forget this kindness you've given to me. If you want to have my soul to make this half of the seed of life extermination mature, why should I hesitate in giving it to you? The moment Su Ming chose to possess the black-robed old man, he let go of many things, just like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Rumbling sounds rang out. They were so loud that they resounded at an unprecedented volume. That sound spread through the entire true Morning Dao world, and even went to the galaxy belonging to Saint Defia's camp through the gap where the pillar once was. As the rumbles echoed in the galaxy, Di Qian's will was wiped off, and a destructive force which could collapse true Morning Dao world was brought forth. The destruction did not affect the area beyond the Pillar of Light, however. Instead, it charged straight into Saint Defia's galaxy through the gap. The space in true Morning Dao world was torn apart by the destructive force, and a huge tear was formed. Countless screams of pain traveled down from the other side. Those screams were from the people controlling the heaven-penetrating pillar in Saint Defia's camp dying all at once. The moment the power which could destroy a true world erupted, the Pillar of Light shattered with a bang. Countless fragments fell back, cutting space. It tore apart the galaxy, but most of the power rose continuously into the gap, tearing it wider. Xingji Dao, one of the 8 paramount Daos of Saint Defia who had just descended and who was a powerful existence with a great level of cultivation as well as a high status in Saint Defia Expanse Cosmos, almost disintegrated once the destructive power erupted. Only his nascent divinity managed to escape. With a fearful expression, he charged forward through the destructive force. While enduring waves of terrifying damage, he had only one thought in his mind run. Fortunately, he still had the white ring with him. The supreme treasure from Saint Defia was the only item which could fight against the destructive force. With the greatest speed he could muster, Xingji Dao dashed into the white ring while swamped by fear. He watched the Pillar of Light beyond the ring shatter and the huge gap being created in the heavens high above the pillar. He knew that it led to Saint Defia's camp and heard countless shrill screams of pain. He trembled, and disbelief appeared in his eyes. They're mad. These people from Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos are all mad. This is a scheme, Dark Dawn scheme. When this event in true Morning Dao world whose after effects could even be felt in the remaining 3 true worlds, the black-robed old man let out a shrill scream of pain. As his body shuddered, madness appeared on his face. It was very clear, and it looked like he was fighting against something trying to possess his body from within. His robes had long ago been torn, revealing an old face and a thin body. He had countless injuries, and blood spilled out from him before it was reduced to nothingness. However, all of this was insignificant compared to the fear he felt in his heart at that moment. It originally came from Di Qian's body self-destructing, but that had only lasted for an instant. His fear changed targets the instant he sensed someone possessing him from within his body. The strange power had appeared without a single sound, having hidden away from his senses. In fact, only when most of his body had been possessed did the black-robed old man suddenly realize the unfamiliar presence. The shock and terror this discovery brought to him instantly reached the peak. Yet even when the black-robed old man cast his gaze on the power possessing him, he had no idea who the other was and why they would want to possess him from within instead of the general trend of possessing forcefully from the outside world. The timing was also so impeccable that it was terrifying. It began when the black-robed old man fought back against the destruction of the world around him with all his strength, which meant he had no spare energy to watch within himself. At that moment, the power had appeared like a bolt of lightning and instantly began possessing him. The light of extreme darkness shone brightly around him and moved with him towards the white ring. He approached it in no time. The moment he rushed in, the eyes hidden under the light of extreme darkness were no longer filled with madness, but had turned into aloof and as cold as ice. At that moment, the old man was no longer Zhongji Dao, one of Saint Defire's 8 paramount Daos, but the reborn Su Ming. The speed of his possession this time was unprecedented. After all, the current Su Ming was incredibly powerful. Besides, his soul had started burning due to the stimulation provided by the melting of his right hand. This sped up Su Ming's speed in possession, and since he had hidden himself in the black-robed man's body at the start, his possession had become even faster. Besides, since Su Ming's timing had been impeccable, it meant that before the black-robed old man could even notice him, Su Ming had already possessed most of his body. Because of it, Su Ming managed to complete the possession in a few breaths. He had also devoured the black-robed man's soul in one fell swoop. The power of his soul instantly fused with Su Ming's soul to serve as nourishment. Once the seed of life extermination devoured Su Ming's soul, the black-robed man's soul would replenish it. Damn it, what's going on? Zhongji Dao, what's the meaning of this? Xingji Dao's nascent divinity trembled. When he saw Su Ming rush into the white ring, he immediately questioned him while lifting his head to look at the huge gap in space which had been formed when the pillar of light had shattered. This is Su Xianyi's plan, Su Ming answered in a raspy voice. While hidden under the light of extreme darkness, he stared at Xingji Dao. His gaze was that of a hunter staring at a prey. Waves of power from the world turned into whirlwinds that spilled out from the gap. They swept out in all directions, and since it was their first outburst in countless years, they instantly filled a small portion of true Morning Dao world. No one knew how long the power of the world would continue rampaging in the galaxy, but once it weakened, Saint Defire Expanse Cosmos would descend en masse. Before that could happen though, Dark Dawn would definitely launch a heinous massacre beyond Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos to fight against Saint Defire Expanse Cosmos for the only gap which would allow them to descend into Arid Triad. As the power of the world swept about the galaxy in a wild rampage beyond the White Ring, invisible whirlwinds destroyed everything. Countless cultivators from the Immortals Union died straight away. Their sects were also instantly reduced to nothing. Bai Feng was the closest to the attack. By then, she had already coughed up an unknown amount of blood. Her face was pale, but there was a huge cocoon encasing her. It was crimson, like the egg of a fire phoenix, and it was one of the ultimate protection arts in Phoenix sect. It could be used only once in their lives, the Phoenix Art Cocoon. At that instant, all those in the Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos who were capable of noticing what happened in true Morning Dao world were shocked. In truth though, even those who did not notice felt an abnormality in the galaxy, and all of their hearts trembled. A mighty pressure descended, traumatizing them. Chapter 1138. Another Possession. The whirlwinds formed by the power of the world swept outwards from the spot which was once the core of the territory belonging to the Immortals Union. As it tumbled outwards, piercing whistles rushed out in all directions at an even faster speed. The place was described as the spot formerly belonging to the Immortals Union because it had now been reduced to complete ruin. Countless immortals had died, numerous planets were shattered, and an innumerable number of sects were instantly destroyed. However, all of this had yet to reach the degree at which it would threaten to destroy an entire true world. After all, it was not the damage caused by the explosion brought by the 1 billion corpse soul seal wreaking havoc, but the power of the world between Saint Defire and Arid Triad spilling forward. Even so, it was still a great disaster to true Morning Dao world. And there was an even greater disaster waiting for them, the huge gap in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos, which had been created by the power of the 1 billion corpse soul seal which could destroy a true world. The gap was like a newly cracked hole in a huge egg that was still some time away from hatching. The power which was being formed to give birth to a dragon of the heavens had begun flowing outwards. At the same time, due to a large amount of aura from the worlds beyond surging in, signs of erosion appeared in the space around the gap. There might have been only a few at the start, but more and more of them appeared without stop. Perhaps this process would need a certain amount of time, but in the end Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos would lose its right to become the third camp standing on equal ground with Saint Defier and Dark Dawn. If Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos had life and could feel pain, it would be experiencing an indescribably intense pain while sensing its life flowing away. Then, it would spread its pain to all the lives born in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. The predecessor of Tao Ocean tumbled about in mourning Tao sect while letting out a pained cry. The countless planets in the galaxies which had yet to be affected by the whirlwinds formed by the power of the world in true mourning Tao world started trembling, and countless living beings within them howled in pain. They sensed their lives flowing out of their bodies. Intense pain came with it, and they felt like their bodies and even souls had lost a precious part of them. All lives behaved in such a manner, including the cultivators. It did not matter whether they were cultivators from the Immortals Union or disciples from mourning Tao sect. All of them sensed the intense pain and felt their lives seeping out of their bodies. Right away, their hearts filled with indescribable terror. It was as if the universe had become different from before, like a crack had appeared in an invisible barrier which had protected them without their knowledge. True mourning Tao world was not the only one affected. The same scene could be observed within true sacred Yin world as well. All the cultivators there felt like their spirits were about to be torn apart, and the tremors from all the planets made true sacred Yin world fall into complete chaos for a period of time. At the same time, all the powerful warriors in true sacred Yin world, especially those who were in Fate Realm and above, as well as the Kalpa Lord along with the Sublime Paragon, sensed all what had happened. There were 5 mountains floating in space in the galaxy. They shone in 5 different colors whose light was very piercing. At the centermost mountain was a middle-aged man. While standing quietly at the top, he raised his head to look at the endless universe. At the same time, a dreary expression appeared on his face, followed by a hint of shock. I can sense a huge gap being torn open in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos, right where true mourning Tao world is. The power protecting Arid Triad does not exist in that gap. You can sense this because you are connected to true mourning Tao world. What you sense is what true sacred Yin world understands, a faint voice said. The air distorted, and a child in red clothes walked out to stand beside the middle-aged man. The child looked incredibly young, but there was an unimaginably ancient air to him. If anyone looked into his eyes, they would lose themselves. Lord Sublime Paragon. The middle-aged man cast the boy a glance, then wrapped his fist in his palm before bowing slightly to him. Many years ago, I sensed that the Sublime Paragon of true mourning Tao world had become incredibly weak. He disappeared the next second, hiding himself away. Just now, I sensed his presence again, but it only lasted for an instant before it disappeared once more. At the same time, I sensed a destructive power that not even I would dare touch coming from true mourning Tao world. It could easily destroy sublime paragons like me, and it could even destroy a true world. The boy stared in the direction of true mourning Tao world while speaking calmly. His words immediately caused the middle-aged man's expression to change. This destructive power that terrifies even me did not shatter true mourning Tao world, but instead opened a gap to Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. A complicated expression appeared on the boy's face. In fact, even with his level of cultivation, he could not suppress the great anxiety which had appeared on his face at that moment. Send the order to all in true sacred Yin world to prepare for war and bring forth all their strongest equipment. Have the cultivators in all true worlds prepare for a great war, the kind of which we have never experienced before. War is about to start, and it will be of an intensity we have never seen before. Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos will fight against those from beyond. Be prepared to die in this battle. Even I will most likely die in this war, so it is even more like for other cultivators. Be prepared for true sacred Yin world to be completely destroyed. War, the boy said softly. The middle-aged man beside him had already started breathing rapidly. His pupils shrank, and if it was not because of his respect for the boy and knowledge of the other's status, he would have not believed anything he just said. Yet those were the words of true sacred Yin world's sublime paragon. And he even said that he would probably die himself too. This caused the middle-aged man, the Kalpa Lord of true sacred Yin world, to feel an indescribable terror. The same scene could be seen in the Emperor of Abyss true world. The planets trembled and the cultivators sensed fear and intense pain. However, the person with the greatest influence besides the sublime paragon of the Emperor of Abyss True World, the Emperor of Abyss, was incredibly quiet. In a world existing in an unknown region within the Emperor of Abyss True World was a lavish palace which towered into the skies. It had a window, and standing beside it was a person. He had his hands behind his back as he stared outside. Sunlight scattered all over the place, making it impossible to see his face. He stood beside the window quietly and watched the universe roar. The cultivators within the true world were panicking, but there seemed to be a hint of a smile on the man's face. Lord Sublime Paragon is about to return. The second stage is about to start, the man murmured in a barely discernible volume. His words were faint, disappearing into the sunlight beyond the window. True Spirit Hell World, the fourth true world, was the most mysterious of the four true worlds, and its name was known only by a select few who were worthy. The instant the gap connecting to Saint Defia's camp was torn in True Morning Tao World, countless shrill screams reverberated in the fourth true world. They came from all regions. Once they joined into one loud roar, the whole world shook. The screams came from pain as well as a sort of madness. However, there were cultivators within each region of the fourth true world who did not make a single sound. Their faces were pale, but they remained aloof. There were plenty of such cultivators in each region, and they all wore uniform clothes. Once the roars reverberated through the true world, they immediately started trembling, and a grim expression they had never showed before appeared on their faces. There is a gap in Arid Triad. Release me. Release me now. I'm willing to fight for Arid Triad. Ha ha, a gap appeared in Arid Triad. I can sense Arid Triad expanse cosmos pain. All of you will die. All of you will die. This is the presence of the power of the world. There's also the presence of those damned cultivators from the worlds beyond. All of you of the damned later generation shall die 1,000,000 times for your crimes. Look at the expanse cosmos we gave you because we felt at ease handing it to you. Open the spirit hell and let us out. Various roars reverberated in space, and there was an incredibly mighty power contained in each voice. They were so terrifying that most of the cultivators protecting the true world coughed up blood as their hearts trembled. Seniors, please calm down. Without the orders from at least 2 sublime paragons from the other 3 true world sublime paragons and Kalpalords, it is impossible for us to open the spirit hell and let you out. Even if a disaster which Arid Triad expanse cosmos cannot withstand has appeared, it has nothing to do with spirit hell. Seniors, please be quiet, an old, aloof voice said. It could be heard in all of the fourth true world, but his only response were even stronger roars than before. However, no matter how much the prisoners shouted, the cultivators protecting the place did not say a single word. Even the ancient voice from before did not say anything. In the meantime, the whirlwind formed by the power of the world continued sweeping outwards through True Morning Tao World. The spot where the pillar of light connecting to the heavens once existed was the spot where the whirlwind had originated. Foam's cocoon was being weakened by the wind formed by the power of the world. From the looks of it, it would only be able to last for 12 more breaths before shattering. Not far from the cocoon was a white light. It came from the white ring, the supreme treasure from Saint Defia Expanse Cosmos. At that moment, the ring was slowly rising into the sky. Judging by the looks of it, it was about to stand up against the power of the world and force its way back into Saint Defia's camp through the gap. Zhongji Dao, we have to leave this accursed place as soon as possible. We have to tell the 3 Lord Saint Defias that Dark Dawn has prepared such a treachery in this accursed place. You have to help me. We absolutely can't stay here. Before long, numerous cultivators from Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos will be led here. The both of us must not let Lord Saint Defia's supreme treasure be snatched away. Xingji Dao roared in the white ring. Even the eyes of his nascent divinity were bloodshot as he used his full power to control the white ring. The eyes of the black-robed old man, who had been possessed by Su Ming, flashed briefly. He nodded and raised his arms to send his cultivation base to fuse with the white ring. It immediately lightened Xingji Dao's burden, but the instant he relaxed his guard, he sensed great danger, and his expression changed drastically. Zhongji Dao, what are you doing? Chapter 1139, Morning Dao Sex Disaster. Su Ming was skilled in reading the changes in his opponent's thoughts and taking control of the weaknesses that came from their emotions. This was something which had already showed itself when he was hunting in Dark Mountain. Since then, 1,000 years had passed, and he had become even more proficient at it. His experiences had made his intelligence grow incredibly quickly. When Xingji Dao was shocked by the things happening around him and wanted to leave Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos as quickly as possible, Su Ming used this to his benefit. He first offered help and activated the white ring so that his enemy would relax his guard. At the instant that happened, Su Ming sent out his nascent divinity and soul without any hesitation. He attacked so fast that Xingji Dao did not have time to fend against him. If this had happened at any other time, he definitely would not have been in such a state. However, his heart was shaken by the things around him, like the completion of Su Xianyi's crazy plan. He was also fully invested in escaping, which was why he showed a weakness that he would never show under normal circumstances. "You're not Zhongji Dao." Xingji Dao growled. His physical body had been damaged, but the great cultivation base within his soul kept him strong. There was a reason behind why Su Ming could possess the black-robed old man in just a few breaths, but when it came to Xingji Dao, it was not so easy. However, Su Ming still chose to possess him. If being accurate, however, it was not possession just for the sake of itself. He was pushed by the seed of life extermination devouring him. The instant Su Ming's soul rushed into Xingji Dao's nascent divinity and the man's roar reverberated in space, he lost control of the white ring. The whirlwind of the power of the world immediately started sweeping towards them. When Su Ming made his choice, waves of power of the world surged in. They might not be able to destroy a supreme treasure like the white ring. It could destroy Xingji Dao and Su Ming who were within it. It doesn't matter who you are, but without us controlling the supreme treasure, we will both die. Damn it, are you mad? The moment Xingji Dao's terrified voice rang out, it was completely drowned out by the loud rumbles caused by the power of the world surging inside. When the white ring was dragged into the tornado, loud whistles reverberated in space. No one knew that there was a crazed possession and devouring going on there at that moment. Su Ming was no longer his past self. At that moment, he was like someone who had risen from the ashes. He was going to pursue his new life, and this life would require him to get rid of the seed of life extermination. Only by doing so would he cut off the final connection between him and Su Xianyi. The moment he did so, he would also make Su Xianyi think that his body and soul had been destroyed, and that he had turned into nutrients to make the seed of life extermination grow. To do this, Su Ming needed to possess almighties like Xingji Dao and devour their souls to replenish the life force absorbed by the seed of life extermination. That was why, even though it was incredibly difficult and there were great dangers in attempting it, he had to do it. If he did not, he would not be able to separate himself from the seed of life extermination and run away from the destiny of his body and soul being destroyed. Because of it, there was really no other option for Su Ming. He had to devour them, and he had to succeed. This was the only thought in Su Ming's mind the moment he rushed into Xingji Dao's body. The whirlwind of the power of the world roared and enveloped everything in the area. The white cocoon not too far away was being weakened layer by layer while a woman inside it was hugging herself. As she shivered, helplessness and despair appeared on her face. Everything around her was in ruins. There was nothing else beside the whirlwind. The entire true Morning Dao world had been reduced to a wreckage. Fear was on the faces of all cultivators in Morning Dao sect. All the relocation runes connected to Morning Dao sect were destroyed completely by the whirlwind, separating this true world from the world outside. No one could venture out, and no outsider could get in. The violent whirlwind rushed around the area beyond Morning Dao sect. All the cultivators who tried to leave with any method they could think of had their flesh and blood torn off as they screamed shrilly in pain. Once they became a bloody mess, even their nascent divinities and souls were forcefully torn apart, and their forms were destroyed. This scene was the result of sect masters of Morning Dao sect choice to send some of their disciples outwards. The moment they saw it, their expressions grew dark. Right then, there were only a few cultivators left in Morning Dao sect. There were only about a few million of them. After all, most of the cultivators of Morning Dao sect were in the world outside, and there were definitely very few who could survive the rampaging whirlwind. Because of it, the whirlwind's actions were the equivalent, to giving a hard blow to Morning Dao sect's soul. However, as long as they could survive it, then with their foundation, they would definitely be able to recover. But the prerequisite to this was that they did not suffer an even greater disaster, or else there would be a great possibility that after existing for countless years, Morning Dao sect would disappear in the river of history within arid triad expanse cosmos, just like ancient Wei. Yet, to Morning Dao sect, this sort of hope was only that, hope. In fact, it did not even last for long before it shattered when a shocking bang came from Su Xianyi's isolation grounds. The chamber serving as Su Xianyi's isolation grounds was falling apart layer by layer in the mid of the rumbling sounds. In just a dozen breaths, it crumbled to pieces with a bang. When the dimension shattered, a heinous, murderous aura which seemed to have been oppressed for tens of thousands of years was swiftly released. Along with that murderous aura came a figure with long hair and black robes. It walked out slowly from the destroyed isolation grounds. Its appearance immediately caused the sky in the world to turn black and countless cracks to appear on the ground as it trembled. Sublime Paragon, you had your physical body explode so it would turn it into a seal that would put my body in complete lockdown. Dao Chen, you used the great soul reversal art to have your will fuse with this place so that I could not walk out of this chamber. But now, the black figure threw his head back and laughed menacingly. There was madness in that laughter, along with thirst for blood and a craziness that spoke of willingness to destroy the universe to achieve his goals. But now, Lord Sublime Paragon, your body and soul were destroyed. When you personally entered the physical body I prepared for you, your soul naturally disappeared. Dao Chen, you might have been able to fuse your will into the dimension and turn it into a seal serving as a chamber, but you didn't expect that once the whirlwind fused with the power of the world, it could reduce your seal to its weakest state, allowing me, who had fully recovered, to be able to easily break it. The black-clad figure with the heinous murderous aura was naturally Su Xianyi. I swore an oath in the past that if I should ever be able to walk out of this seal, I would definitely bring about a bloodbath in Morning Dao sect to exact revenge for what you've done in the past. A bloodthirsty smirk appeared on Su Xianyi's lips. Behind him was Sang standing silently. He stared into the distance, but no one knew what he was thinking. However, it was obvious that Morning Dao sect had reached its end. When Su Xianyi's laughter spread out, he immediately left the world. Booming sounds that surged into the sky reverberated in the air, and the world immediately shattered to pieces. At the same time, a loud, deafening bang which shook the hearts of all the cultivators within Morning Dao sect rang out in the 9 floating continents within the first plane of Morning Dao sect. At the instant it echoed, everyone saw a scene they would never be able to forget in their lives. In fact, it could even be said that it was the final, most dazzling thing they saw. One of the 9 continents suddenly shattered amid the loud bang, and all the lives on it, all the mountains, rivers, and buildings instantly collapsed. A long-haired, middle-aged man dressed in black stood at the spot where the shattered continent had once been. His head was lowered to stare at the ground. There was an bottomless, profound look in his eyes, like flames were burning madly in it. I once said that this world shall be built for abyss. His voice was not loud, but the instant it traveled outwards, it caused the air to tremble, the heavens to shudder, all the continents in the place to rumble, and the hearts of all the cultivators to quiver while indescribable terror rose within them. With a smile on his face, Su Xianyi took a step forward and swung his right arm. Booming sounds rose in the air, and another continent shattered. It has been many years since then, and I have waited long for this day. Su Xianyi moved, and 3 consecutive bangs shook the sky. In no time, only 4 of the 9 continents remained. Who are you? Roars filled with shock and anger came from the distance. At the same time, dozens of long arcs charged forth with loud whistles. Needless to say, the people in the lead were sect masters Ri, Yu, and Xing. They fixed their stares on Su Xianyi. This person appeared unfamiliar, but there was also a hint of familiarity about him. However, they simply could not remember who he was. Who am I? A hint of derision appeared at the corners of Su Xianyi's lips. He suddenly threw his head back and laughed before he lifted his right hand. He did not even move his body, only choosing to point at Sect Master Ri, who had been the one to speak among the 3. This person's flesh and blood shall be used as an offering for mine people, and his soul shall become mine vessel. The pupils of Sect Master Ri, who had the power of those in Death Realm, immediately shrank. At the same time, a shrill scream of pain tumbled out from his mouth. His body instantly withered. The moment he looked like he was about to die, he raised his right hand and struck the center of his brows. With a bang, his physical body was destroyed, but his nascent divinity succeeded in fleeing. A sublime paragon's power. He has the power of a sublime paragon. At the instant his shrill shrieks reverberated in the air, Sect Master Ri's nascent divinity shuddered, and under all the people's disbelieving gazes, he turned into a crimson wooden sword in the blink of an eye. The wooden sword hummed, and in a flash, it charged to Xianxia. It was a telling sign that it was now an enchanted treasure. If anyone observed the wooden sword closely, they would find that its presence was identical to that of the wooden sword he had wanted to give to Su Ming. Art of serendipity. This is the power of a sublime paragon. The expressions of Sect Masters Ri and Yu instantly changed, while Sect Masters behind them went stark pale. You're a sublime paragon. Sect Master Yu's voice was filled with disbelief. Sublime paragon? Look closely and see for yourselves who I am. Su Xianxia swung his arm, and his face immediately changed. His presence also became that of Dao Chen. Chapter 1140. Dust. The instant a presence with which all the sect masters of Morning Dao sect were familiar with erupted, they recognized that it belonged to their progenitor, Dao Chen. Impossible! Impossible! Sect Master Yu shuddered. Disbelief appeared in his eyes, followed by great sadness. Su Xianxia. You're Su Xianxia. Sect Master Xing's cried out as his breathing quickened. In his voice was indescribable fear and despair. I remember you. You were not yet a sect master in the past. Su Xianxia smiled faintly. While staring at Sect Master Xing, he raised his right hand and pointed at him. The world darkened. Shrill screams of pain caused all those who heard them to feel their hearts tremble. When the world brightened, Sect Master Xing was no longer around. The Almighty in Death Realm had already turned into a red wooden sword that floated around Su Xianxia. Run! All disciples of Morning Dao sect is no longer. With everything that you have, run! As the only sect master remaining, Sect Master Yu laughed brokenly with madness in his voice. His words were filled with grief, and he rushed towards Su Xianxia the next moment. This sect master in Death Realm had chosen to die a heroic death. I was born in Morning Dao sect, and I will die in Morning Dao sect. This is my home, and even if I die, I will die defending my home. Morning Dao sect, if I am ever born again and you are still around, I still want to be a part of you. As he roared, he went aflame. His physical body burned, his nascent divinity burned, and even his soul started to burn. A destructive power born from self-destruction was swiftly released by the rampaging power within him. Madness appeared on the faces of people behind him. Some might have chosen to retreat, but the majority chose to self-destruct. If they could not live with Morning Dao sect, then they would die with Morning Dao sect. The explosion from dozens of sect masters was a madness that could shake the heavens and earth, but it was destined to be unable to erupt. If Su Ming could control time and make it go in reverse, then it was even more so for Su Xianxia. He only lifted his right hand and swung it forward, and the whole universe's time flowed in reverse. The explosions were extinguished. The next moment, everyone turned into red wooden swords. From today onwards, Morning Dao sect will no longer exist, Su Xianxia said faintly, then raised both his arms to swing them forward. Immediately, the dozens of red wooden swords around him whistled and charged in all directions. Wherever they went, continents would crumble, and cultivators would be sliced apart and die wretched deaths. Even more strange was the fact that every single time the dozens of wooden swords killed a person, a new one would appear in place of the person who had died. Because of it, as the wooden swords swept sideways, their number gradually increased. If anyone was to use their divine sense to check them at that moment, they would be able to tell that a soul of a member of Morning Dao sect could be found in each of the wooden swords. They were in endless pain, and they could only watch helplessly as the wooden swords formed from their bodies killed their fellow sect members, friends, lifelong partners, and even the love of their lives. And the cause of all this was Su Xianxia, who stood in midair. With the expression of someone who enjoyed watching the deaths and slaughter around him, he stared at the destruction of the sect and listened to the pain-filled cries. "Destroy all of your families and your sect. I will take back several times what you took from us when you descended on the fifth true world all those years ago. This is just the beginning." A smile appeared on Su Xianyi's lips. Behind him, Sang watched everything quietly. Conflict and hesitation appeared in his eyes. Yet after a long while, he only sighed and lowered his head. For a time being, the entire Morning Dao sect was drenched in blood and encased in crazed slaughter. The continents shattered, and soon, all of them were reduced to pieces of rock that fell into Dao Ocean. The 99 continents in the second plane too could not escape from the disaster. As more red wooden swords appeared until their numbers eventually reached a state where they could no longer be counted, the continents crumbled simultaneously. It did not matter whether they were men, women, the elderly, or the young. Even the toddlers died forlorn deaths. It was a destruction of a sect, so all manner of living within it had to be killed. Roars echoed in the air at that moment. For long arcs shot out from Dao Ocean. Within them were the 4 spirit beasts of Morning Dao sect, the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Turtle. The 4 beasts had bloodshot eyes. At the instant they rushed out, they charged towards Su Xianyi. The fastest among them was the Vermilion Bird. It instantly closed in, but Su Xianyi only raised his hand and swung his arm in its direction before a sea of fire surrounded it. The Vermilion Bird was born of fire, but at that moment, it let out a shrill cry and was reduced to ashes. Sword light shone. The incoming Azure Dragon was beheaded. Its nascent divinity was destroyed, and only its long body fell onto a destroyed continent with a bang. Falling along with it was the White Tiger. Its body was not complete, for it had turned into countless threads of flesh and blood. Like blood rain pouring from the sky, it scattered all over the land. As for the Black Turtle, its shell was destroyed. Su Xianyi dug out its bloody heart and squashed it into a core. Then he ate it. "A black turtle's core still tastes pretty good," Su Xianyi said softly, as if he was enjoying the aftertaste. Nostalgia appeared in his eyes. Booming sounds surged up into the heavens. Once the 99 continents were destroyed, the 999 continents and 9,999 continents in the third and fourth planes were shattered along with all the innocent lives on them. All of them were robbed of their right to live. Everything in Morning Dao sect was destroyed, and the sky was reduced to a mere wreck. The ground was ruined. Blood dyed the fog in Dao Ocean, and a bloody stench filled all the parts of the sect. Only this Morning Dao sect is pleasant to the eye. Su Xianyi ended his recollection of the taste of the black turtle's core, then raised his right hand to strike the shattered sky. Immediately, rumbling sounds rang out once more from the highest spot of the sky. The tower of the sect masters was shattered along with a plate created from countless valuable materials. They had originally floated up in the sky, unseen by the naked eye. Carved into the plate was Morning Dao sect's name. At that moment, the plate which had been passed down through generations and which had existed since Morning Dao sect was created cracked into many pieces. A smile appeared on Su Xianyi's face. As he stared at the no longer existing Morning Dao sect, he turned around and walked away. Sang followed quietly behind him. The two of them walked out of Morning Dao sect and stepped into the rampaging whirlwind. It has ended. With just one more thing, everything will be perfect. Su Xianyi stood in the whirlwind. The distortions of time could be seen around him, as if he could affect a certain part of the whirlwind surrounding him. The distortions made it disappear, returning that part of the galaxy to a point many years ago when the galaxy was in a state of peace. "Su Ming, my son, where are you?" Su Xianyi smiled faintly. When he was about to close his eyes and search for him, Sang finally lifted his head behind him and stared at Su Xianyi's back. "You promised me," he said softly.